In today's video, I will talk about finishing a summer top and my first ever pair of lace socks. I will also talk about visiting my first ever yarn festival, what it was like and what I got there. And I will also talk through my works in progress. I've got a couple of new ones and also the Terracotta sweater and the Ingrid sweater. So if you are interested in that, grab a beverage, grab your knitting and let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Knit with Fee. I'm Fee and this is where I share my knitting hobby with you. If you're new here, then thanks for taking a chance on me. I really hope that it is enjoyable and informative. And if you're not new, then a huge thank you for supporting my channel. I really appreciate it. Seeing as I switched it up a little bit and did an introduction already, I will dive straight in. The first item I'd like to talk about is my first pair of lace socks. So here you are, and there we go. That is what they look like from the side. I will put also a picture up here of what it looks like from the front. I did show, if you watched my previous video, I had made one of them already, so you may already know what they look like, but now that they are finished, I am really chuffed with them. I'm definitely going to be making more lace socks in the future. So far it's my favorite type of sock. They've really kept my interest. They seem to go quite quickly. I don't find anything really in knitting goes quickly because it is, you know, by nature a slow hobby. I like that about knitting because it makes you relax. It's quite therapeutic, or I find it is anyway. But for a regular pair of socks, I found that these ones went really fast, or they felt like they went really fast. And I think the reason being because you're doing it in sections and repeating this section, in this case it was a set of 8 rows, then it just keeps your interest. You're doing something different, and then the 8 rows seem to go by quite fast. And instead of having to knit 160 rows of stockinette, you're knitting like 14 lots of 8, and so it's much more manageable. It feels like it's broken up, and you can be like, oh, I've done 2 rows of 8, you know, I'm a 7th of the way there already, kind of thing. So yeah, really loved knitting these socks. I will definitely make some more lace socks in the future. I'm not sure what patterns yet. I found some really interesting patterns on Ravelry. I will put an example actually up here. I'm quite excited because this is a sock designer that I've not seen before, and I quite like a lot of their patterns. So this is an example of one of the patterns that they make on Ravelry, just as an idea of what I would like to make in the future. So let's get into the details. Also, as an aside, this might be a bit of a hint about one of the things I bought at the yarn festival. So let's get into the details. I knit these on 2.5mm needles, which are my go-to now for socks, and I really enjoy making socks on 2.5mm needles. I feel like that's a nice in-between, so that they're not too loose, but they're not so small that it feels like it takes forever. I think also I'm slightly biased because my 2.25mm needles are a little bit more fiddly. I find the smaller they go, the more fiddly they are, particularly between the cable and the needle itself. And so I think that kind of puts me off a little bit because it's trickier to shift the stitches round. And I don't have that issue with my 2.5mm needles. So that could be just a me thing, a little bit biased because of the needles that I happen to have. But yeah, I do really like using 2.5mm needles. I ended up doing 58 stitches, which is not what the pattern suggests. Because I went up a needle size, I went down a pattern size, so from medium to small, but then I added a couple of extra stitches. So yeah, it worked fine. It would have been fine if I hadn't added the extra stitches, but I did, and it's absolutely fine, and they fit me quite nicely. Right, I'll go through quickly, but I did mention this last time. I did the German twisted cast on, which is what my go-to is now for socks. I really like that. I've got into the habit now of doing it a little bit looser than I used to, so that they get over my foot better, and I really like that. I did 2x1 ribbing. I think it was 15 rows, and then the rest is a regular sock with a pattern right down the center, with a heel flap and gusset. I used Sisu yarn by Sandnes Garn, and I don't really like it. So I think this is the first sock yarn I've ever used that hasn't, that's kind of put me off. Why don't I like it? It's interesting because the first sock seemed fine. I didn't have any issues with the yarn for the first sock, other than the fact that there is a ladder, but I don't know if that's the yarn's fault. So I did magic loop the whole way, and I used to get ladders in my socks when I did that, but I've worked quite hard at getting rid of that, and the last few times I've done magic loop, that's not happened. But for some reason it has this time, so I don't know if I can blame the yarn for that, but that's just something to be aware of, or yeah, something I wanted to point out is the ladders there. But the thing I really found, there's two things that I really found about this yarn that I wasn't a fan of. The first one was the second ball that I used was really splitty, so I didn't notice it that much on the first ball, but the second ball was very, very splitty indeed. It's the worst I've had so far with sock yarn in terms of splitting, so that kind of put me off. And the second thing that put me off is it was very uneven. So the yarn in some bits were much thinner and in other bits were noticeably thicker. You can't see it in the sock, I don't think. Can't see it in the sock, but yeah, when you were knitting with it, it was really noticeable, to the point where there were some bits where I thought if I pull this too tightly it might break. It probably wouldn't have, and I was going to test it and I didn't get round to it actually, but it really did feel a bit precarious with how thin some of it was, and also when it got thick actually as well, it felt a bit kind of floofy and messy. So it felt like those fibers weren't tight, so that could have broken as well. So yeah, it's a shame. I love the colour. I think it's a lovely colour, and I do think they've got lots of different nice colours. And it's not horrendous, but of all the sock yarns out there, because there's so many, I don't think I would use this again, which is a shame. It's also a little bit rougher than other merino sock yarns and a bit softer than non-merino. So I think either it's a blend, it doesn't say, it just says wool, or it's quite a rough merino. But yeah, I can't talk to how long it will last and how sturdy it is or anything yet, so we'll see that over time, but not my favorite yarn, unfortunately, but my favorite type of socks, so I will be making more of these. I'm really excited about that. So my other finished item is a summer top. It's called the Sommerknus. I will put information about it up here. It's by Judith, someone, and I really fancied a summer top that could go quite quickly compared to my other jumpers that I'm knitting at the moment, and that would keep my interest. And I found this one. It's a round yoke construction, and because it's got sections with different patterns in it, I thought it would keep my interest, which it did. I was also interested in trying to make something with a linen blend yarn. And so I made it with Drops Belle. And yeah, it did go relatively fast, not super fast. I think maybe it took me a week or a week and a half to make. But here it is. I will, of course, show you some video and maybe some photo footage of me wearing it. But this is the finished item. So yeah, round yoke, which is not something I think I will do frequently, but was a nice change. I really like the yarn. So Drops Belle is definitely a yarn that I would consider using again. I was expecting it to be quite rough on my hands because a lot of cotton is, but I didn't find this at all with this cotton linen viscose blend. I didn't find it rough on my hands at all. It's really nice and soft. It's in the colour Dandelion. Just a lovely summer top that I can wear. I used 5mm needles, which I think was a recommended size. I did do some ribbing on the edges and on the bottom, but not on the neck. There was ribbing for the neck that was optional, so I didn't do that. I actually did it in twisted rib because I wanted it to stand out compared to the other ribbing in the patterns, so I did it in twisted rib, and I think that worked quite nicely. I'm a little bit nervous that it's going to grow because it's cotton, and it's already quite large, but in a way I'm quite glad that it's large because then it's not too close to skin. I'm not going to get loads of sweat on it and that sort of thing, so it should last longer, which is good. I cast off with the Italian bind off. Well, I didn't do any setup rows. I just did, I guess, the sewn bind off. And that was really interesting. It's the first time I've done the sewn bind off on a non-woolly yarn. And it was a very different experience. I think the fact that it has no sort of give at all. You know, I had to be very careful how to line each stitch up. I also found that the first time I did it, I'd done it way too loose, and because again there's no give, then it was really obvious, and so I undid it and redid it again much tighter, which is now a lot better. So yeah, I like it a lot better. But yeah, that was a really interesting sort of seeing how the Italian bind off works differently with cotton compared to wool, and particularly compared to like really fluffy wool like alpaca and brushed alpaca and, you know, mohair, that kind of thing. It's much more structured, much more easy to see exactly where the stitches are going and what's happening with it, which was quite interesting. I quite enjoyed that actually, to be able to place exactly how I wanted the stitch to be, how tight I wanted it to be, you know, which bits I wanted to be longer and shorter than the others. So it was really good. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, it was a learning experience because it's very different from doing it with wool. Not maybe something I would be a little bit more particular about whether to do the Italian bind off with cotton, whereas wool, I think I'd probably be happy to do it on any project that had 1x1 ribbing or 2x2 ribbing. But yeah, I do like it. One of the reasons I like it the most, and I think there's a pattern emerging with this, is that I feel like it's really adaptable. So, you know, this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different stitches that then repeat. So 5 different rows of different types of stitches, but I reckon I could put any stitch I like in there. So, you know, I could choose to mix it up, have the same sort of idea with the rows, but do any sorts of different stitching in each section, which I'm really excited about. So I would like to make this again. I'd like to make it again in a different yarn, maybe a yarn with a bit more stretch, like a merino or a merino mix. But But yeah, whether I'd make it exactly the same or whether I'd kind of design my own sections, I'm not sure. But I really love the fact that I could do that. So overall, I really liked it. The pattern was really, really clear. I don't think there was anything I found confusing about the pattern at all. I did edit it slightly because I found that my yoke was shorter. So by the time it got to split for sleeves, it was a bit shorter than it should have been. So I had to do some extra rows. So I adapted the pattern slightly for that to work, but it wasn't hard to do. But yeah, I like it. It's nice. It's not been washed yet. But because it is cotton and not wool, I think that blocking is going to have less of an effect on it. So it's more representative of what it's going to look like after blocking anyway. But really happy with it. So I'd really like to make it again. I'd really like to use Drops Belle again for a different project as well. My idea is the big chain top. I'll put that up here as well. I can never remember the name of the designers, but I will make sure it's up there so you can see. So I would like to make that top at some point, and I'd like to make it, I think, with Drops Belle. But I'm not ready to purchase it just yet because I've got a lot of other things I want to make. I'm just quite excited at the fact that as I grow as a knitter, as I learn, as I get more patterns under my belt, it's really exciting to learn different ways of doing things, different constructions, and yeah, it's great. So one of the things I really liked about this top is that it's very different from anything else I've made. It has very sudden increases instead of gradually increasing, and seeing how that worked was yeah, really interesting. Yeah, I had no problems with it. I thought it might be a bit weird to increase so suddenly, but no, I had no problems with that at all, and I think it's worked out really great, and it makes a really, you know, nice casual top with just a little bit of interest. So there we go. That is my finished items. This was a completely spontaneous knit. It wasn't in any of my plans. I hadn't really thought about making it. It was very sudden. And so I'm quite glad I did it, actually. I was wondering whether I'd regret it. And it isn't my favourite. You know, I don't think it's the most wearable, not the kind of tops that I would wear like day in, day out. And so in that sense, you know, making this instead of something else that I might wear more, I'm not super sure whether I should have done that, but I feel like I've learned a lot from it. I feel like it's very different from what I would usually wear, so that's also a positive, not just a negative. And it was really nice to do something that you could see the progress going really fast, because the last few things that I've made have been slow progress, so it's been really great to have something that is quick. And when I say quick, oh, flippin' heck. So I really wanted this to be finished so I could wear it to the Fibre Festival. And I was nearly there. And so I worked furiously on it the night before. I ended up finishing at about 11 at night. And that was with the first time I did the sewn bind off, and it looked really uneven, but I wore it anyway because I was like, oh, I'm not undoing this now. So yeah, I worked quite furiously the final day to get this done in time to wear, which I did. And ironically, because it was cold, I had a jumper on over it the whole time, so I didn't get to show it off really at all. But yeah, that was quite special, because I always remember this now, because it was the top that I worked really hard to get done for my first ever Fibre Festival. Yeah, so let's get on to talking about the Fibre Festival. This is going to be an interesting section because, you know, it's a little bit looser. I've not got things to show or anything like that, but I really did want to highlight this festival because I've never been to one before, so I wanted to talk about it. I really enjoyed it overall. I wasn't sure. I was a bit worried that it would just be thousands of the same yarns and all really expensive and really crowded. I wasn't sure how many people would be going. I wasn't sure what the queues would be like to get in at the entrance. And I also wasn't sure what it would be like going on my own because, I mean, I always have been someone that likes to go and do things on my own. I travel on my own quite a lot. Quite often my husband and I take turns to have holidays, to have some time to ourselves, which I really, when I first did it, I thought it was a bit strange, but I really love it. So yeah, going on my own wasn't really a thing. I didn't really think about it until I got there. And, you know, a lot of people were there with friends or family. And I was like, oh, is it going to be strange being on my own? But actually, there were quite a few other people there on their own as well. And yeah, people were really friendly. There was like a massive cafe area that was open the whole time. It was actually open before the yarn festival itself was open. So I ended up going there because I got there a little bit early. So I ended up having a coffee and a cake there before I even started at the yarn festival. It was at a school, like a grammar school in Leeds, and it was called Spring into Wool. I should have said this at the beginning. And yeah, it was really great. And then I went there a couple of times throughout the day and just got chatting with the people on the table with me. So that was really lovely. Also, a lot of people on the stalls were happy to chat. So yeah, there was a lot of yarn. There was a lot of yarn, which is good because I love yarn. There was a lot of stalls that did kind of yarn related things. Yeah, maybe I'll put a few pictures up here now. So yeah, it was really interesting. Things I'd never heard of before. So there was a ceramics stall that had these bowls that you put your yarn in. Some of them are amazing. There was like a hair clip stall, which was interesting. I think it was more like a crafty thing. It had nothing to do with yarn or wool, but that was quite interesting. There was also a bunch of stalls, like there were community groups that had stalls there, which was interesting. They had some people that were like making wool, spinning wool with their machines and everything, and they were just sat there and you could go and chat to them and ask them questions and stuff. So that was really great. There was also a table, I didn't get a picture of this, but there was a table where you could just take your pattern books that you didn't use anymore and donate it, and then, you know, get new ones that you liked that other people had left. I think there was like a donation that you paid like 50p or something, but that was really good as well. It really had quite a community feel, which was great. There was a lot of different yarn, which started off being a bit overwhelming, and a lot of them were similar, but yeah, once you kind of went around the store, so I went around more than once. I did kind of a quicker loop where I just saw what was out there, and then I went back again and spent a little bit more time. And yeah, they really started to distinguish themselves. There were some really interesting ones. So I'm going to apologize because there were loads of really good stalls, and if I'd happened to not go to your stall or spend a lot of time at your stall, then it doesn't mean it they weren't, you know, amazing. But the ones that stood out to me, I'm going to talk through here. So one of the really interesting ones was the yarn artist, and she dyed yarn based on artists. So she had yarn that kind of mimicked famous paintings. So Monet paintings. There was Starry Night, that was really lovely. She also had ones with other artists. So like what's her name? Beatrix Potter. She had quite a few Beatrix Potter yarns that matched like Jemima Puddle Duck or Peter Rabbit. They were really cool as well. So that was really interesting. There was another one that I didn't really get to spend a lot of time at, so I don't have a picture for, because they were really full all the time. People were chatting with them the whole time. But they were like a kind of gaming yarn company. I'll put a picture up here of their website and their name and everything. But that was quite interesting because they had yarns that were like based off Pokemon and stuff like that. My daughter used to be really into Pokemon, so that really caught my eye. That they had some yarns based off you know, video games and anime and that kind of thing. I thought that was really cool. There was one that was really like into neon, so all their yarns were like neon yarns, which was really interesting as well. Yeah, and a few others. I'll put the pictures that I've got up here of the yarns that I found interesting. I ended up taking a bunch of pictures of yarns that I was interested in buying, and then kind of looking through them while I was having lunch and trying to narrow it down. One of them that really stood out to me was called, I'll put it up here in case I get it wrong, but Felt Fusion, I think. And they really stood out because they had camel yarn. So that was one of the big things of this festival. I'd never heard of yarn made of camel before. And I had no clue what it would be like. So there were two stalls that I saw that had camel yarn, that one and another one. Oh, what was it called? I'll put it up here. But the second one, they were all variegated, and I'm not a huge fan of variegated yarn unless it's going to be a sock. And so, yeah, this Felt Fusion, they had lots of different block solid colors in 50% camel, 50% silk, and it was the softest yarn I've ever felt. It was so incredibly soft. I was so tempted, but it was also very expensive. It was £28 per 100 grams and £30 per 100 grams respectively at the two different shops. And because it's so soft, and I reckon probably quite pilly and quite what's the word, you had to be careful with it. I'd guess it's a bit like cashmere in that you would make it in something really special, and I don't think it would hold up to serious wear and tear. And so all of this is to say, I couldn't just get one ball because I'm not making socks out of it, because they just die immediately. So if I was to make something out of it, it would be like a top, which would have to be more than one ball, which would take me like over the £60 mark immediately. So it's the kind of thing I'd be really interested in doing in the future, but I decided not to get any this time round. And yeah, hopefully I don't regret that, but it was so interesting to see. I'd never heard of camel yarns before, so that was really great. They also had loads of other stalls. They had stalls with bits and bobs, with notions. They had stalls that were like wood, anything wood related, that was knitting related. Yeah, there were all sorts of different ones, and all sorts of really interesting yarns and really interesting dyes. So yeah, I was overwhelmed. I walked around multiple times. I went to so many of the different shops. Also, it wasn't too crowded. That was another thing I was worried about. There was no queue going in. You could go in immediately. In fact, I went in early and just sat at the cafe. It did start to feel a little bit busy, particularly in the hall. There was an awful lot of people, and I think by midday there was a lot of people there because I deliberately had my lunch early. So I had like a snack at 9:30 with a coffee. Then I had my lunch at about 11:30, and then lunchtime, the whole cafe, which was really large. I reckon there was like seats for hundreds and hundreds of people anyway. It was all full up basically, and there was still, all the stalls were quite full as well. So there was a lot of people by midday. I got there at 9:30, 9:45, and ended up leaving at about 1:30 or 2 o'clock. So it finished at 4, so I didn't stay the whole day, but I felt like I'd seen everything and I'd bought everything I wanted to buy. Well, that's not true. I wanted to buy millions of things, but I bought everything I was going to buy. They had some workshops as well. They had a workshop room. I didn't go to any of the workshops. They cost extra, and because it was my first ever yarn festival, I wanted to just kind of go and see. And then I also just went for the one day because I wasn't sure whether I would want to go for both days or not. So I thought for my first one, I'd dip my toe in and see. Also, I wasn't hugely interested in any of the workshops there. So I didn't end up going to any of the workshops. So I can't say anything about them. but they did have the workshops. The food, like, I don't know if the school just provided the food. It was at the school cafe. It was good, and it was good value for money as well. So that was really nice to have a place to go and sit and just chill out in between, like, being bombarded with all the sensations of these knitting and wool related stuff. So that was really nice. So yeah, overall it was a really fantastic day. It felt like it was well organized. It was very clear where to go, where to park, how to get in. Yeah, everything seemed to be quite organized. Downsides, I would say, because most of the yarn shops were hand dyed, they were expensive. So there was one wool shop that had quite cheap wool, and the wool just went. So like within sort of 2-3 hours, the shop was empty because of the price, I think, of what they were selling. I didn't get anything from there. I think it's in my nature to be a little bit cautious. So as soon as something seems too good to be true, it's like, I don't know. I'm a little bit nervous about getting this yarn that was so inexpensive compared to everywhere else. And also they didn't have it. If they had something that I really wanted, I maybe would have, but they didn't have anything. There was one yarn that was quite interesting. I was quite interested in that had alpaca. It was an alpaca blend anyway, but they didn't have any colours that I wanted. So yeah, I didn't get anything from there. But other than that, it was very rare to find a skein of yarn for under 20 or under £19 anyway. So yeah, it was quite expensive. But not everything, as I will show you. So let me show you what I bought. So just before I start, I will put my running total down there. I apologize because in my previous video I was sure that my running total was like £36, I think, and I think I commented a couple of times saying I've got £36 left, which wasn't true at all. I had £52 52 pence left, which was great because it meant I had more money to spend. But yeah, that is my budget, and because it is still April, that's still my budget. I've got no extra money there. So did I manage to stick to it is the question. Right, so let me show you what I bought. The first things, which you've already seen, is I bought some sock blockers. They are adult size 4 to 6. Oh, is that 4 to 6 or 4 to 8? Yeah, it is 4 to 6. 4 to 6. I'm a size 6 in UK size shoes, so, and my daughter's a size 4.5, so I thought this was a good size to get for my socks. And yeah, I'm really enjoying them. They were £5 each, so £10 for the pair, which was less than when I had looked on Amazon and other places for sock blockers. So yeah, I was quite happy with that price. I was willing to pay it. And it's really nice to be able to put some socks art and show it to you how they would look on my feet. It's a shame that you can't. It would be interesting if you could have like a sock blocker that was that shape as well. I think maybe they do them, but yeah, to show what it would look like from the front. But yeah, so £10 comes off my budget for these sock blockers, but I'm happy I bought them. The next thing I got was some, I don't have them here with me. I don't have all of them with me because I'm using some of them. In fact, I'll put them all together. I ended up buying 4 for £5 and another one for £3, so £8 in total I paid for stitch markers. So here is one of them. It's a little sheep, which I thought was really cute. A rainbow, which I thought was nice. A lily. Actually, it might not be a lily, but a flower. Oh, unfortunately, my favourite one's in use at the moment. It's a bee. So I'm really into bees. I live in Manchester, and
I love bees, so I had to get the bee stitch marker when I saw it, but I don't have it here to show you. And then finally, the final stitch marker I got was a little bit fancier. It's got some sea glass inside it, and I just thought that was really beautiful. So yeah, those are my stitch markers that I got. I think I might have to go on a stitch marker hiatus and tell myself I'm not allowed to buy any more stitch markers for a while, because yeah, I've got a lot now. I think I started off just buying a bunch of plain ones, so I had them, and then occasionally, you know, just for a special treat, I'll get some nice ones. But I think I've got enough nice ones now that I don't need to get any more for a while. So yeah, really like them as well. Two other things that I bought from the yarn festival. The next one that I bought is a project bag, and I absolutely love this. It was £14. I'll put the name of the store up here. It's got like a drawstring inside, so it can get, you know, quite large in size, but it can also fold up quite small and handy. I just really loved it. I love the pattern on the outside. I love the colours. I love the red polka dot inside. Yeah, and this is my new sort of sock bag, so you can't see in there, but all my sock yarns that I'm currently working with are in here. So yeah, really love it. Yeah, no problems with any of them so far, and really enjoying them. So that was £14. And then the final thing I bought is, I couldn't not buy a ball of yarn. I did consider actually not buying a ball of yarn, because yeah, there was no yarn that I really wanted to get to make a sweater or a top that wasn't ridiculously out of budget. So I was left with sock yarn, and to be honest, so many of these hand dyed yarns, I think to stand out, they're very colourful and they're variegated, which lends itself more to sock yarn than anything else, I think, anyway. And so yeah, really the choice was buy a ball of yarn for sock yarn. I have a lot of sock yarn already, as you probably know if you've been here before, so I wasn't super keen to buy more sock yarn, but there were just so many nice ones, and I really wanted to buy something, and I wanted to make like socks with sort of hand dyed yarn. I think I have done one pair before. It was bought by my husband in Spain. It's a very different yarn, but yeah, I really wanted to get some, so I did get this ball. It was from a shop called All Wool That Ends Wool. Again, I'll put it up here. I'll also put some photos up here now of things that I bought, and what they look like, because this is no longer in the skein. The colour is called A Midsummer Night's Dream, and it's like 50% black and then 50% rainbow. And yeah, it really caught my eye. I also really like this stall because next to all the yarns, it had little swatches, which was great because you've got these beautiful skeins with all these beautiful colours, but you've no idea what it's going to knit up like. And I think a lot of variegated yarn I find looks better in the skein than actually knitted up. And to be honest, I think this is the case as well with this one. So it was really nice that they had swatches knitted up. Didn't quite work out because their swatches, of course, were little squares that were knit back and forth. So that looks very different than a sock knitted in the round. But it was a good indicator, at least, of what it would look like. They also had some full garments made with their yarn to show what it looked like. So yeah, that really helped. So I think that was one of the reasons I bought this. Yeah, so A Midsummer Night's Dream, merino, and really nice and soft, really nice and soft. There was another yarn that was a bit like this, except for instead of black with rainbow, it was kind of dark grey with neon rainbow. That was really tempting, but the difference was this one was softer. That one was merino as well, but for some reason it was a lot rougher than this one. So yeah, I did buy this ball, and I've started making socks with it already, as you can probably tell. So that will be in my works in progress. But yeah, so overall, really enjoyed the yarn festival. Would love to go to another one. I think this one was relatively small, so I'd love to go to another one. I was recommended actually by a lady at the yarn festival. There was one in Wales. I'll put the name up here because I forgot what it's called. And it's actually on next weekend, or this coming weekend, but I'm busy. I've got a dance exam, so I can't go, unfortunately, to that one, but next year I'm very tempted to go to that one. So that was really nice to get recommendations of other yarn festivals. But yeah, overall I enjoyed it. I think if I were to go again, so what would I do differently? It was really nice just going and seeing. I didn't want to go with a lot of research or previous knowledge, so it was really nice just to go walk around and see. I think that if I go again, or maybe if I go, relatively frequently to yarn festivals, I'd like to start doing a bit more like chatting with the people and working out sort of what their ethos is, and where their base yarn comes from, how they dye it, if there's anything interesting there, and how local they are, that sort of thing. It'd be really interesting to sort of find that out, and kind of help to decide which brand that you kind of like the most, and that sort of thing. So that is my acquisitions, and that takes me down to less than £1. So that was very tight, and I didn't plan it that way because when I went, I still thought I had £36. So I thought I'd overspent, and I thought I was going to have to. So I was also given a £25 gift voucher for Mother's Day, and I was thought I was going to have to kind of use that, but thankfully I miscalculated and I didn't go over budget at all. So that's really, really great. Because I was a little bit nervous that I was going to have to come on here and admit that I'd gone over budget. Yeah, so where does this take me? Before I go into works in progress, I just want to say like where I'm at with acquisitions. Like, I'm a bit torn. So if I'd filmed this a week ago, I would have said I was feeling like I was spending a little bit too frequently and too much, particularly on sock yarn. And I think I still feel that way about sock yarn. So I think I am going to try and cut down on my sock yarn stash and not buy any more sock yarn unless it's deliberate. So the only reason I could see for buying more sock yarn is, let's say I wanted to make a lace sock or a cabled sock and I wanted it to be plain, like solid colour, and all I had was variegated, then I would be willing to buy some sock yarn. But I really want to kind of make sure that I am using my sock yarn quicker than I'm buying new sock yarn, and that, I'm being a little bit more deliberate. The reason I say I'm torn is because I also really like the fact that I can try lots of different sock yarns, and I would really be interested in the future in doing videos about like which sock yarns I like the best, and I've got to experiment and experience all the different sock yarns in order to do that. But I think I can do it at a slightly slower pace, or do better. So that's sock yarns. Other yarns, again, it's the same thing. So I do feel my yarn stash is growing. I've never been interested in having a big yarn stash. I don't want one. I don't want yarn that I don't know what I'm going to do with. So normally when I buy yarn, unless it's a special occasion or a holiday or a yarn festival where I really want to get something, then I only want to buy yarn if I know what it's for. And I have done that, but I'm definitely buying the yarn quicker at the moment than I can make the things. And so my yarn stash is growing. So I used to have like one bag, slightly bigger than this, of yarn. It's grown now so that I've got 2 bags up in the attic, and I've also got a shelf of yarn. So it's not like loads and loads, but I'm definitely aware that I'm buying more than I'm making, or I'm buying faster than I'm making. Yeah, but at the same time, I don't want to force myself to make something I'm not interested in. And I also, one of the things why I made this channel, and one of the things I love about knitting, is trying different yarns and different fabrics, and I don't want to not do that. So all this, I guess, is to say I don't know where I'm going with this really, other than this is my thought process. I'm hoping I'll be a little bit more considerate in the yarn that I buy in the future. But watch this space. I may, you know, it's best laid plans and all that, but we will see. So I think what my plan is going to be is that in the next little while anyway, I do feel like knitting summery things. Because the weather on and off is nice and sunny, I would like to knit summery things. And so I'm not going to restrict myself to not buy summer yarns. But I think I would like to sort of in between fit in some of the projects that I've bought yarn for in the past and haven't got around to making. Whether that's projects where I bought the yarn that I want to design the pattern myself and have been a bit nervous to do that, or because I do have a few yarns like that, or whether it's projects where I bought the yarn, I got the pattern, but then I've not got around to making it yet either. So after all that rambling, I hope you're still with me. Thanks for sticking around and listening to my thought process and all of this. Yeah, we'll see where this goes. That's one of the really exciting things about having this channel and this hobby, is who knows what I'm going to make next and what yarn I'm going to use and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun, and yeah, learning experience just constantly, which I love. Works in progress. I feel like I've got a million works in progress on at the moment, which I don't think I do actually, but that's what it feels like. So I think I'm going to do the same as last time and talk you through anything new first, and then update on all the things later. So new, I guess, because we've been talking about this, I will show you my sock that I'm making. So I've made the first sock in this wool. A Midsummer Night's Dream it's called, which is lovely. Yeah, I love it. I do love it. I would have liked, I think it would have been even nicer if there was more black and the rainbow kind of was a little bit less frequent, but I do really like it. So again, 2.5 millimeter needles, 1x1 ribbing on the cuff. I think it's about 12 rounds. I started off doing a lace pattern, so I started off just doing like a arrow shape. I don't know if you can see. Let me see if I can. Can you see? I don't know if you can see the holes there. Basically, I did one round of this lace pattern and I really didn't like it for this sock. I just thought that it would look much nicer with the stripes, so I stopped. So that's more like a interesting cuff thing now, is a round of lace on the cuff, just below the cuff. So 1x1 ribbing followed by what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds of lace, and then the rest is just stockinette. socks with the heel flap and gusset. Really soft yarn, really nice, beautiful, loving it. It's, I don't know if you can tell, but it's got like silver speckles in it as well. Like it's sparkly, which is really nice as well. I really enjoyed knitting with it. Interestingly, I think the gauge is really different with this one. I don't really care much about gauge now. I never gauge swatch for socks. But this one I ended up doing by accident 55 stitches, which is a lot less than it should have been 56. I started off with 60, reduced it down to 56, somewhere in here. Accidentally went down to 55 because with the lace I missed one yarn over, which creates an extra stitch, so I ended up with 55. Not a problem, I'll just do the same with the other sock, but not that tight. Like, I could have gone down even further. The other thing is, when I knit round and round and round for the leg, and then not the leg, sorry, the foot, and then tried it on, kept trying it on, and it seemed like no matter how much I knit, it just stayed just slightly below the foot, the toe. So I think there's about 100 rows along here, which is what I would expect of my 2.25 millimeter needles, not my 2.5 millimeter needles. So yeah, very different gauge. It seems to go wide and less long, so I had to knit more rows but with less stitches to make the same thing. So that's interesting. But yeah, really love it. So if I were to do it again, I think I'd probably go down further and maybe go to like 52 or something like that even. But then that would be for the ankle, and then I might stick to 56 for the foot. Because yeah, I find my ankles are a little bit smaller than the balls of my feet, so it's a bit too loose around the ankle sometimes, depending on the yarn. So one sock down, one to go. The other new thing I've started, I've actually got a ball of sock yarn in here, but I've not started it yet. It's my next planned sock, which is for my husband. It is got bamboo in it, so 50% wool, 25% nylon, and 25% bamboo. So I am going to make those for him. So the first pair of socks I made for him that actually worked were a pair of, I think it's King Cole was the brand. I'll put it up here. I've got a picture of them here. They're basically fruit. They're all named after fruit or vegetables, and this one was dragon fruit. He absolutely loves them. They fit him really well, but they are starting to fade on the ball of his foot now. The polyamide is still there, but the acrylic, because it's an acrylic polyamide yarn, the acrylic is falling apart now. So I am going to replace it with these and see if they're any better. I don't know what to say about like his socks falling apart. He's had them for maybe 6 months and he wears them very frequently. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing that they've lasted that long. None of my socks have fallen apart yet, which is nice. They are the only pair of socks I've made that are acrylic and not wool, so that could have something to do with it, but I'm not sure. I just don't have anything else to compare it to. But I always expected socks not to last too long because, you know, they're so hard wearing. So I'm not horrendously upset by it, but it's just interesting to know, you know, I've been knitting long enough now that one of my socks has worn out. I wasn't sure whether to talk about this one or not because technically it's not a work in progress because I frogged it, but I will mention it as well. So my daughter wanted me to make her a jumper with drops air. I started it, I made the yoke, I followed the step-by-step sweater by Florence Miller. I made the exact same pattern for myself with the exact same yarn. It turned out tiny. and it almost fit my daughter, so I nearly gave it to her, but I blocked it and stretched it. I blocked it quite aggressively, and it worked, and it now fits me. And so I kept it, but she really wanted one, so I decided to get the same yarn, make the same pattern again. And I started that. The size I had made was a size small. I decided to make the extra small for her because it was a little bit big on her. So I started it, I made the yoke. She tried it on, hated it. Really tight around her neck, really uncomfortable, hard to get over her head, which I find quite crazy because it's an adult size and she's 9. So yeah, I've just had really bad luck with that pattern. I do think possibly it's to do with the fact that Drops Air is so light, so it doesn't pull the way heavier yarns do under the weight of itself as it gets bigger. But at the same time, to be so way off, so the number of stitches around the neck just sounds too small, to be honest. And yeah, even if I'd gone up to the size small, which adds an extra couple of stitches to the neck, I think it still would have been way too tight on her. So I've decided to give up on that pattern. Yeah, I've just not had any luck with it, and I'm not a fan, unfortunately. I do know that it's her first ever pattern, and it is really helpful and a really great. She spent a lot of time on it, and she made a long video explaining how to do everything. Really brilliant. I recommend watching it if you're new to knitting. A really great way to get into knitting. So I don't want to smash it and say it, you know, because I think a load of people have used it and found it great, you know, and her sweaters she's made with it look absolutely stunning, really lovely. But it just does not work for me. So I won't be making that pattern again, unfortunately. Which means I need to find another pattern. And I have looked through some other patterns that I've got, and I find it interesting that some of the jumper patterns I've got that are like chunky. So Drops Air is Aran weight. Chunky weight is bigger. So you'd expect the stitches to be bigger. And their necks, the stitches around the neck, have more stitches, even though it's chunkier wool. So yeah, I find it strange that there's so few stitches around the neck in that pattern. But I guess if you like things really tight against your neck, then it'd be absolutely fine for you. But yeah, so I've got to find a pattern. So I don't know whether to use my chunky pattern that I've got for a chunky sweater and adapt it, or not adapt it because she is a child, and see how it turns out. So I might do that, or I might see if I can find another pattern that I really like. There's a pattern I've been wanting to buy for a while called the Doppio by Seunghee. I'll put it up there. Really want to make this with Camo Rose Snefnug. Sorry, I keep saying that. Snefnug. Really, apologies for if I pronounce things wrong. So I'd really like to make that at some point with Snefnug. And so this might be a good like trial run to see what the pattern's like. Yeah. So that is my plan with that one. So not made it yet, but I do plan on casting it on as soon as I can find the pattern that I'm happy with. Right, so old projects. The first one I will talk about is the socks. So I don't know if you were here before, you'll know I want to make a pair of bed socks for my dad. I started, this is Colourlab DK sock by West Yorkshire Spinners, and it is 1x1 ribbing sock all the way. I started it, but I was really worried that it wouldn't be machine washable because I knit a pair of socks and they were not machine washable when it said that they should have been. They were ruined by the wash, and so I wanted to make sure that it was machine washable before continuing, and it does seem to be. It has fluffed up quite a bit, but it has not, you know, It's still stretchy and it's still like a proper sock, unlike the other yarn that I used. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to carry on and make these socks for him. So yeah, that's a bit of a relief that it's fine and I can keep going with this. So that's my dad's sock. Not much more to say. It's DK weight yarn. The pattern is one from Sommerknus sock project, and this is all I've done so far, but I can get back on it now that I'm happy. My next two, again, have very little progress. Well, that's not true. The terracotta sweater, I have finished both sleeves. I can't remember where I was up to last. Well, they're not finished, but I've done all the patterning on both sleeves, and I have done the patterning on the body. So it just needs finishing off now, but I blocked it first. So I washed it and blocked it because I wanted to see if it would grow. I didn't want to make the sleeves too long or the body too short, and so I blocked it to see where it would end up. So this is it blocked. It's the tiniest bit damp still, but yes, all done and blocked, and now I can get a really good idea of how it's going to fit on him and how much further I need to knit. So that's really great. I feel I can go all steam ahead with this one now, and I'd really, really like this to be done by my next podcast episode. So yeah, I'm not going to go through all the details of this one. I will put up the name of the sweater and the name of the designer up here in case you're interested. I absolutely love it, but hopefully next time I can do an in-depth review of the whole process and what it looks like finished. That would be brilliant. So that's my target for next week, is to have that done. My other work in progress is my Ingrid sweater. Again, this has made no progress since last time, other than the fact that it is now washed and blocked, and it has grown an awful lot. It has grown a lot. I'm so relieved. I thought I might have to stretch it out to make it to fit size, and I started stretching it out on the blocking mat, and then I got measuring tape out and was like, oh, I don't need to because it's grown on its own. So really happy with that. First time I've tried it on. Again, this one is slightly damp, but look at those sleeves compared to last time. Oh, so much better. Right, where am I with this? So I think I will make the ribbing slightly longer for this sleeve and then do the cuff, because I would like the cuff to be a little bit longer. But yes, I'm happy that I don't need to undo it. And then, and then I can start the body. So really happy. Another one that I can just get on and do now. I feel like it's gonna fit. It doesn't feel like it's too small, which it felt like it was gonna be too small before I blocked it. So really, really happy that I blocked it before carrying on. Oh, this one is definitely more damp than the other one. The other one's pretty much dry, but this one has a bit of dampness to it. And it's got that alpaca smell. Alpaca smells so strongly, especially when it's wet. But yeah, so this one, again, I'll put it up there. It's Petiteknit, the Ingrid sweater. Really, really love it. Now that it's blocked, to be honest, I love it even more. And I really want to get on with it. So 2 sweaters that I actually really love, but I kind of lost steam with, because 1, they were taking a long time. 2, I was worried about size. And 3, it got sunny for the first time in months and months and months, and I just really wanted to knit some summer stuff. So kind of went off the boil for a while, but really keen to get back on that and get them finished. Yeah, and I'm not even going to think about what sweater I want to do next after that, because I think I've got so many other ideas that, yeah, I don't plan on making sweaters for a couple of months anyway. Right, so I think that is everything. I feel very much like I'm in an in-between stage at the moment, where I've got a lot of ideas, a lot of things on the go, but I can't start anything new until I finish something. And yeah, I feel like things, I don't know, I feel like things are going quite fast at the moment. So yeah, I might need to calm it down a bit in the future and maybe have less projects on the go at one time. But yeah, it is also quite fun starting something new. So we shall see. Right, I hope you really enjoyed it. I hope you have a really good day, and all the best until I see you again.